What's up everyone, it's Bailey. Welcome back to the channel and thanks for tuning in to a video where I'm going to dive into some new products in beauty. New-ish. I'm talking like within the past couple weeks to a month, maybe even 2 months at this point, we got the new Naked palette in here. So just kind of a smattering of all the new stuff that I've been trying over the past few months that I just haven't quite fit into a video so far. We're going to cover it all here today in this video with swatches, demos, you name it, we're going to cover it. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's just get started. First, let's talk foundation. I have been trying the IT Cosmetics Confidence in a foundation. This is an oil-free formula for all skin types that has long wear, weightless, full coverage, all-day confidence with a velvet matte finish. I feel like we're seeing more words on product labels, or is that just me? The shade that I have is 205 Medium, which is a neutral shade, and generally I feel like it's a good shade match. Unfortunately, it's not a good product match for me. I picked it up because I have had great luck with IT Cosmetics products in the past. I love their CC cream. I love their Celebration foundation, both the original and the one that I picked up more recently. Picked up again more recently. I shop my stash, is the Illumination version. Love all of those. So I kind of thought this was going to be a slam dunk because IT Cosmetics knows their base products, but it was a mess on me and my skin. I tried it over various bases, priming. For the record, the kind of primers that I like are something like more moisturizing, less silicone or slippery primers. So like the Smashbox Photo Finish Primerizer. Tried it with this, without it, kind of switched up my skincare to make sure there was nothing there that was altering the way it lasted throughout the day. And it just didn't work out for me. It dries down to a totally powdery appearance and texture, which I like, without feeling too heavy or cakey or anything like that. The issue for me came in with wear throughout the day. I noticed it breaking up around the drier parts of my face. So I have combo skin. My main problem with foundations will tend to be that they break up throughout the T-zone area where I develop most of my excess oil throughout the day. And occasionally I can get dry patchiness around my cheeks, and that is where I ran into some issues. So not only did it break up in those dry patchy areas, but it oxidized more in those dry patchy areas, whereas generally it oxidizes where I've had like the excess oil and the foundation mixes with that and then mixes with the air. That's where I experience ox. So I'm not really sure why that happened over here, but there was really nothing I could do to keep it from doing that, unfortunately. So this is a pass for me. It just cannot hang with me through a full day's worth of wear. I'm really not sure what more I could do to help it last, whether it's a setting spray or a different kind of primer. I'm not sure. If you guys have had issues with this, let me know what your experience has been in the comments and if you found a solution. Otherwise, it's going to find a new home with somebody who might enjoy it more. Okay, now let's move on to a happier story. I finally got around to trying the e.l.f. Cosmetics 16-Hour Camo Concealer. I picked up 3 shades. The shade that I've been wearing is Light Sand, but I also got Fair Beige and then Light Peach. Technically, the shade that I wear, Light Sand, falls in between these two in terms of the numbering system. Like on the tops of these, Light Peach looks like it should be a little bit deeper, but in looking at the products themselves, this was kind of the deepest one of the 3. Either way, they're all too light. Like if I were to order more, I would definitely go up in the shade range just because it's a good highlighter for me. But if I want to just conceal with something that's closer to my natural skin tone, these are all way too light. Also, they all look very similar, so it kind of makes me wonder what sort of differentiation we're looking up elsewhere in their shade spectrum. But without having that experience, total speculation. So let's get on to wear, which I actually really, really like. So in wearing the shade that I find best matches me, I tend to cover my under eye areas, my chin area, and then basically wherever else I have breakouts or healing breakouts, which lately has kind of been everywhere. But I've really been loving the coverage that it's given me. It's very full, very buildable, but still pretty natural looking. Like it doesn't dry down to a totally powdery looking finish on me. So it has a little bit of a satin finish to it that stays satin the whole day. Like it doesn't get excessively oily, it doesn't break down or anything like that. It just stays just the way it is, and it doesn't sink into any fine lines because the texture is very comparable, and I'm sure a lot of you guys, if you have looked into this before, have seen a lot of comparisons to this and Tarte Shape Tape. I personally think they're very similar. The e.l.f. is a little bit thinner for me, but whereas I could sometimes run into the issue of Tarte sinking into very fine lines out here in like my beginner's crow's feet, have not experienced that at all with this from e.l.f. And something else I want to point out is I've been talking a lot about the L'Oreal Infallible Full Wear Concealer. Again, really love the coverage of this guy. I think the texture, the coverage, everything about these two almost identical, but the e.l.f. has 0 scent that I can tell anyway. Like no artificial, no natural, it just doesn't smell like anything, whereas the L'Oreal is heavily fragranced, like one of the more heavily fragranced products I've ever put on my face, which I was willing to overlook because I loved how it performed. But now that I have an alternative that doesn't smell like that, I don't have to run the risk of irritating my skin if it's sensitized, you know, with allergies or things like that, I'm gonna pick e.l.f. every time, knowing that I don't have to worry about the fragrance. And if that was the case with a lot of you guys, when I mentioned that in whatever video it was, a lot of you had said that that would make you steer entirely clear of the L'Oreal. So if you've been looking for a really great full coverage concealer that's affordable, definitely go check out this e.l.f. because you get all the same great performance of both the L'Oreal Infallible and Tarte Shape Tape, but without the fragrance. Alrighty, I also picked up some new blushes from e.l.f. Well, I don't really know how new these are. It's one of those things where they launch the product and then they show up as new every time they add new shades and stuff. So I don't know how new these are, but I picked up 2 of the shades from the Luminous Blush collection. One is Glowy Rose and the other is Radiant Peach. And I was inspired to pick these up just because with the warmer weather, I feel like I'm gonna start wanting like head to toe glow all over my body, including my blush. I mean, in addition to highlight, but there's something about like a healthy glow right on the apples of your cheeks that just says spring and summer to me. So I thought these would be fun to kind of play with and just see how they perform. And I really like them. One thing that differentiates them from a lot of other glowy blushes out there, like for example, the Milani baked blushes, those have chunkier shimmers in them, which can be beautiful if I wear them higher up on my cheeks, but if I smack those on the apples of my cheeks, those larger shimmers just tend to accentuate a lot of texture that I don't think I normally have on my cheeks, but somehow shows up when I apply that chunkier texture of shimmer to my cheeks. So I'm pretty pleased to say that the shimmer in these is so finely milled, it's almost more like a shift rather than an overt shimmery chunk in there, that it just looks like this dewy, glowy sort of situation on your cheeks that you can then emphasize with more highlighter on the tops of your cheekbones, but I definitely don't feel like it's overdone by applying both. And yet you could go in with one of these and then it's like your one and done blush and highlighter all in one too. So there is that going for them as well. But in general, if you're looking for a fun way to change up your blush game and you're into something a little bit more shimmery, illuminating, these are some really fun shades to pick up. The other illuminating blush business that I have been getting into lately, and what I'm actually wearing today, is the Natasha Nonna Bloom Blush and Glow palette. I have been coveting, I mean, various things from Natasha Nonna pretty much ever since she came out with her collection, but her blushes in particular, I've never tried any of her blush palettes, in part because they're so large. I'm just not sure I would get so much good out of all the shades in there, and as a result they're expensive. I mean, Natasha Nonna is just a high price point for makeup. So when she launched this palette, it is a quad as opposed to being a 6-pan palette, and I want to say the pans are slightly smaller, you know, not having one of those 6-pan palettes, I'm not entirely sure, but visually they look a little bit smaller, and as a result the price tag is, I think, quite a bit lower. This is around the $50 price tag, whereas the larger blush palettes are $100 plus, I believe. So I picked this up. It has a combination of cream and powder products, but I love what they did with the packaging, where it's in this nice compact, has kind of a well, definitely a magnetic closure, good sized mirrors, and they have protected the, gosh dang it, protected the cream products on the top with this plastic flip cover. So you lift it up, get your cream products out, but then you can close it when it comes time to get back into that powder, so you don't kick up a bunch of fallout only to fall into your blushes and kind of muddy them up. I love that it's a really substantial plastic flap here that's actually on a hinge, so you can make sure it's like fully covered. It's not going to move around and dig into your blushes like I have had happen sometimes, especially if you're traveling with them. So genius design on the packaging, and the products themselves are gorgeous. This blush is intensely pigmented, so you really do not have to go in with a heavy hand to get any sort of pigmentation out of this at all. And I know this glow shade over here is meant to be used as more of a cream cream base, but honestly, I love mixing it in with that blush shade to help kind of dilute it down, or go in with it after the fact just to make it a little bit less intense. But you can also wear it alone as a cream, like very balmy, dewy looking highlight on the tops of your cheekbones as well. Then every time I wear those cream blushes, I do like to go in and set them with one, if not both, of the powder highlight shades, just because I love the dimension they give to the cheeks as well as the healthy glow. So today I applied the blush shade on my apples and then worked it on the way back. And then I went in with the Duo Glow blush and patted that on top of everywhere where I applied the cream blush. And then for the highlight, went in with the Glow Extreme along the tops of my cheekbones. And even though I was kind of concerned that the Glow Extreme would be A, a little bit too chunky of a highlight, and B, a little bit too pigmented of a highlight, for me, it leans very pink when applied, and so I thought it might be better as like a blush topper as opposed to a highlight. It would just look a little too unnatural as a highlight on my skin tone. Pretty pleased to say you can blend it out to be a lot more sheer so that pink doesn't read as much on my skin tone, and that chunkiness doesn't lend itself to looking like a disco ball on your skin, I don't think. It keeps things looking really healthy and balmy and dewy. So overall, I love this palette. Oh, and I find that layering my blushes like that, like starting with the cream and then essentially setting it with another powder over top, makes my blush last all day. Even over awful foundations like the IT Cosmetics Confidence in a Foundation. The funny thing is, I hope I still have this footage of the before and after, but like at the end of the day, when my foundation is in shambles everywhere else, like my chin, my forehead, down the center of like, it looks awful, except on my cheeks, where it looks fabulous and glowy and all in one piece and smooth. And if it can outlast this, the staying power is incredible. Next up is the new Anastasia Beverly Hills Dip Brow Gel. So they've basically taken the Dip Brow formula, and I think they diluted it a little bit and turned it into a brow gel formula. The shade that I picked up is medium brown, and it's a teensy bit too deep, at least for my current like hair, everything that I have going on right now. I feel like it's a little bit too deep for me. Might have gone a shade down and might still when I repurchase. But like I said, I probably will repurchase just because I've been loving how it's been holding my brows in place. The one thing I loved about the original Dip Brow formula was the pigment it added to my brows and the texture and the fullness that a pomade would add to my brows, but it was so easy for me to go overboard with the pigmentation because it was such a pigmented product that at the end of the day I wouldn't have these fine hair-like structures that I feel like I can get more easily with my beloved CoverGirl Ultra Fine brow pencil. Instead, I would have like these blocky brows. So I eventually had to ditch the original Dip Brow formula, but I would always still like to set with a gel just to make sure, because I have some long, even though they're sparse in some areas, I got some long brow hairs, so when they fly away, it's pretty noticeable. So I do like to set with a gel or a pomade or something. So I just really like this. Brings back that texture, it brings back the fullness to my brows, some tint to my brows, and it also has that same hold that I would love out of Dip Brow pomade, but it's so much easier to apply and way harder to go overboard with this. I think I mentioned this in an IGTV video that I uploaded, which by the way, I have and am trying to do a lot more of. In case you don't follow me on Instagram, I've been trying to put like mini tutorials more frequently throughout the weeks, mostly stuff that I'll be wearing here in a video that I don't think I want to put in a full-blown video here on the channel. I will stick that on IGTV just as a quick little tutorial and a behind the scenes of what I've been using lately. I think it was in one of those videos where I had talked about probably not using this alone. I have a lot of stray brow hairs like around the perimeter of my brows that if I don't fill them in and just add a little bit of structure around there, this brow gel catches a lot of those hairs and it just looks a little bit messy, and not in a fun, undone kind of way, in like a girl, what happened to your eyebrows kind of way. So I probably, unless I get a wax in the near future, I probably will not wear this alone all that often, but I really love using it in conjunction with that brow pencil. Okay, and now I want to talk about the new Urban Decay Naked Reloaded palette. This I've had for a while. I mean, the brand sent this to me whenever they were sending out their PR packages, and I've just kind of gone back and forth on it. I was such a lover of the original Naked palette that when I first saw pictures of the Naked Reloaded, I was kind of let down. I mean, having not tried it obviously, but just from the way it looked, it almost seemed like they had taken away some of the shades that I loved so much and replaced them with things that were trying to feel very current, like this peach, the pink duochrome, which I do love a good duochrome, so I was pretty excited about that. But in these warm coppers, things like that, I was just like, oh, I miss my classic Naked palette. I kind of just wanted them to reformulate it and come out with this really fantastic formula. But after using this, I definitely warmed up to it. I still don't love that there are a lot more warmer shadows in here. I would have loved for Retro to have instead be something like a mauve or a dusty, like soft mauve sort of matte shade rather than a peach. But overall, I'm actually pretty impressed with how all of these colors play together. The one, including Retro, by the way, even though I would like it to be a different shade, it performs beautifully. The one shade I do have issues with though is Dreamweaver. Compared to all of the other shades, matte, shimmer, whatever the finish, you name it, that one is just a little bit too dry and chunky. Like when you swatch it against and use it against all of the other shades, the pigmentation isn't there, the creaminess, the smoothness isn't there. And it's a shame because this is one of the like ultra cool shades in this palette, so I wish that would have been a little bit better. But overall, you know, I do like this. I think I've just been lukewarm about it because I expected it to be the original Naked and it just wasn't. I think I just need to learn to love this as the Naked Reloaded palette and not as the new Naked Original palette, if that makes sense. Because beyond that, I really like it. Like, it has a super slim profile. They cut out that space for the brush and or eyeliner. Although I personally really like to use the brushes, I thought they did a good job at pairing the dual-ended brush styles with the shadows you had. I always use them. I can appreciate the slimmer, more travel-friendly or just storage-friendly packaging of it all. And so yeah, those are my thoughts. Let me know what you think about it or any of the things that I talk about in this video. If you've tried them, I'm sure a lot of you guys have, because like I said, some of these things have been out for a while. So if you've tried any of them, have some opinions, good, bad, different, whatever, let us all know down in the comments. And let me know if you enjoyed this video. Please give it a like if you did. Besides that, guys, thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye, guys.